Well, thank both of you for being here again. It seems like you spend more time on the Hill talking to us than you do with your command, but thank you for being here. General Goldfein, as you and the Secretary have been more than patient with us in both open and in classified briefings about the Advanced Battle Management System, ABMS, that you are envisioning, and I fully support that. As we've also talked about, there's this gap somewhere in the 2020s on ISR capabilities. And so today, though, I want to talk about how that decision to move to space capabilities and protecting assets in space, given what's going on in particularly the China development in space. In our past, in the United States, we've always looked at space as sort of the scientific endeavor. China looks at it totally differently. It's a military endeavor, and they just recently launched this supposedly debris clearer and other snuggler satellites behind our GPS capability. So help me understand how moving capability from air domain to the space domain actually increases survivability. And in this open environment, help us understand what your long-term plan is, including the gap that we have sometime in the 20s.
Yes, thanks, Senator. And I would offer to you that the gap that we're required to fill is that gap between both a contested environment and an uncontested environment. And as we have discussed, the challenge we face today with the current Joint Stars is that the threats can actually keep them far enough away not to be able to do its job. So this is about supporting soldiers, sailors,
I'm sorry to interrupt, General. I apologize. I hate to do that with somebody with 4 stars on their shoulder, but
okay.
With regard to the Navy's going a little bit different direction. Can you tell us the difference in their demand structure versus what our demands are on ISR in that regard?
It's based on mission, but actually the Navy long-term is going in the same direction. I can tell you that the CNO, Admiral Richardson, and I we've had warfighter talks. We're talking about going to a network disaggregated architecture.
Yes, sir.
But the gap that we're filling now is that we've got to fill we got to make sure that soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines on the ground in a contested environment,
yes,
think
sir.
Kaliningrad, understand enemy ground movement on day 1 of that campaign at the same time that I've got it in an uncontested environment,
right.
think Yemen.
Yes, sir.
The fact that we can fly Joint Stars longer through 2028 and possibly longer allows us to take a look at moving now to a disaggregated architecture. And it's more than just space. It's actually how you connect space and air and sea and land together to produce a common air picture, a common ground picture that equally serves someone in Kaliningrad inside a contested domain where Joint Stars can't help today,
yes,
and in Yemen where Joint Stars can. So this has got to be transparent to those on the ground. And as the service that organizes, trains, and equips and presents forces, we got to fill that gap. And that gap exists between contested and uncontested.
In the recent action that the U.S. took in Syria, those weapons were GPS benefited weapons. And because of that, as we know today, I think that's still true, that no collateral damage was incurred because of the pinpoint accuracy. We also know that Russia and China can jam and can affect GPS. And I know this is an open environment, but again, are we moving in a direction where those capabilities are hardened and can be protected in the new battle space? Secretary?
Senator, the current plan for the Air Force is to move to jam-resistant GPS, and that is in the budget proposal. Of our 77 satellites that the Air Force operates, 31 of them are GPS. And we not only provide position navigation, we also provide timing to the New York Stock Exchange and to the ATM machine that you get your cash from. So it enables a huge industry. It also enables a lot for the warfighter.
I have one last question. This is on a recent trip to China. We were so privileged to stop in Alaska and met the F-22 squadron there. And I have to tell you, it's a lot of money, but boy, is that impressive. The people, the equipment, the mission, the capability. I slept better for the next week or two. The commanding officer, though, I asked a question. I said, the primary mission up here, and we had pictures and we saw this information about how the F-22 is tailing a Tu-95. So you have a pre-Gen 1 aircraft being tailed by a 5th-gen aircraft. Now, my question, obviously, not being an expert, I said, why do we have a Gen 5 chasing a Gen 1? And he said, sir, because we're here. Can you speak to that? I mean, this is a very sophisticated, very expensive piece of equipment. It's now aging, even though it's in the first few years. What are the replacements for that? What are the future of that? And we got to fly the wings off it to train people. I get that. Help me understand, and this again is the limitation of money and funding, but help me understand the mission and strategy of that 5th gen capability.
Thanks, sir. It is true that we use those assets and we place those air superiority assets, be that F-15, F-22, F-35, F-16, and we place those where we need to be able to intercept, whether it's Chinese or Russian long-range aviation. So no surprise that we would be using the F-22 to intercept Chinese long-range aviation. Very important, though, that I think that we acknowledge, because the previous question talked about sustainment costs of the F-35. And I will tell you that from the Secretary of Defense on down with the Secretary Shanahan, we are all involved in wire brushing down sustainment costs of new aircraft. But what hasn't been talked enough about is the operational successes that we've enjoyed. And just share with you a couple. You know, we took the F-35 to red flag last year. 86% mission capable rate of our newer F-35s, a 20-to-1 kill ratio against the most advanced adversaries we could put up, more advanced than anything we might face, because we were up against ourselves. 26 of 27 direct hits on air-to-ground targets in the most difficult threat environment that we could put them in from both an air and a ground perspective. We went to Combat Hammer and Archer, which is where we test capabilities, and they were 100% hit rate on air-to-ground munitions and 11 for 11 on shooting AMRAAMs. So the newer F-35s, which is a fusion machine that allows it to actually take information from space and cyber, fuse it together with onboard and off sources, is allowing this weapon system become the quarterback for the team. And I'll just finish by saying that I had a great conversation with the Israeli air chief, who are now flying the F-35, and he said it's an absolute game changer for them. They're able to see and sense and fuse information that they have never seen before across the region. So this F-35 and 5th Gen is a game changer for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am so gratified that the rebuilding and the future of our Air Force is in the hand of these two former U.S. Air Force Academy classmates. Thank you both.